it's a weird place right now where we're in right here in Gainesville because I think it's a divided group right now. Half the people want Napier out. Okay.
Of course.
Half the people are saying, hey, if we do that, we're just doing the same thing over and over again. Aren't you saying we don't want Napier to do the same thing over and over again, but we want to do the same thing over and over again?
How much of this is potentially an institutional issue or a fan base issue? Because I guarantee you, Jim McElwain, Will Muschamp, Dan Mullen, and Billy Napier did not start taking stupid pills when they took the Florida job. Okay. But there's some common theme there. Something's not right. And I don't know what it is, but those are all really good football coaches. And I will die on this hill, Pat. I still believe to this day, because they were really good on defense and they could run the football. Had Will Greer not gotten popped for PEDs, Jim McElwain might still be the coach there.
Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point.
Okay, and welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by our great friends at Titan MRI. I know that Joe Calorio is a happy man today. Oh, no, that's right. He's not a happy man. He's got to wait till tonight to be a happy man because they split. I was talking about that with Paul Gardner from, of course, who's my chiropractor. And they're both big Mets fans, both grew up in the same area. And now they're down here in Gainesville. We're lucky to have both of them. Anyway, it's brought to you by Titan MRI, and it comes to you, as always, from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios here. I still need to get another lamp to get the lighting a little better so I don't have that shadow on my face. Or it could be I could just wear a mask and you guys would be happy because then you wouldn't have to look at me all the time. That's very possible, too. I do have a mask over here somewhere. I'm trying to remember where it is. Yeah, there it is right there. All right. So we got a lot to talk about today, a lot going on. We've got all of our great features that we do. Tom Luginbill is going to join us today. Always love having Tom on. He really knows college football. Of course, he works for ESPN. He was at Florida State last week, so we can ask him about what is going on with the Noles. Maybe we'll ask him what's going on with the Gators. And we'll ask him what's going on with college football because I'm not sure I have any of those answers. And then Coach Spurrier on Monday. And then on the following Thursday, Brett McMurphy's going to join us. We love Brett. He does a great job. And he's on top of stuff like anytime you see something break on Twitter, and that's where news breaks these days. It breaks on Twitter. And if it's college football, it's always Brett McMurphy breaking the story. Does a great job. So we'll look forward to having him. He's a good friend, too. So let's get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club, starting five. And I will tell you that the Gainesville Quarterback Club on Tuesday, had Patrick Young come speak, and he was dynamic. He was really good. It was so good to see him. It still makes me very sad every time I see him, but I try and he tries. We try just to make the best of it, but his talk was great. People were swarming the podium there to talk to him afterwards. So appreciate Patrick coming over. Not sure who the guest is going to be for next Tuesday. Dan Mullen had to drop out, and it's not because he dropped out because he just didn't want to do it. He got assigned all these Thursday games, Wednesday and Thursday games for college football. And because of that, he's not going to be able to do a talk this year, it turns out. He had already agreed to do it, but he couldn't do it. So they're looking for they're scrambling for a second, and I gave them a bunch of names, and so we'll find out who it is, and we'll let you know Monday. For those of you interested in joining the Quarterback Club or getting on the Zoom, there are a lot of people on the Zoom. In fact, one of our members at the Quarterback Club just had heart surgery, and he was watching on the Zoom, so he didn't want to miss it just because he had to have open heart surgery. But all right, so let's get to our starting five, and let's start off with Florida UCF and the crazy spread. Now, at one point, the spread, I'm telling you, it was Florida favored by 3. I know it was. I saw it somewhere. And so I said that, and then on radio, a guy said, hey, I got Florida in 3. What's going on? And I started looking around, and yeah, the spreads are all over the place. It depends on which one you believe in, I guess. For example, on ESPN, Florida is a 1-point favorite. On DraftKings, UCF is a 2.5-point favorite. So basically, it's a pick'em game. Is what they're trying to tell you. It's a pick'em game, and look, I don't think anybody knows who either one of these teams really is. And both coaches this week have said the same thing. we're going to find out who we are Saturday. And that's, hey, look, that is absolutely true, because if UCF loses that game, and look, I know that they've only lost one conference game, but you're not going to have much. That the momentum of that program is not going anywhere. 2 losses already. You've beaten New Hampshire and Sam Houston, and TCU's really down this year. They're not terrible, but they're not good. So that, and you beat them by a point, and then you got boat raced by Colorado. So, and obviously the Florida momentum, and I don't even know that there's any momentum going. You won a game against a really bad conference team, but you did win on the road, and you did show a lot in that game. What did you do during the off week? I mean, we know what they did. They practiced really hard 3 straight days. I mean, like you were getting ready for the first game of the year. I mean, they went hard, and the whole plan was, look, we still have to find out who wants to play on this team. You know, it is so kind of funny, because I think about this a lot when Coach Napier, you know, talks about, you know, getting the right guys and getting the right people in here. And he felt like he had the right guys this year, the guys that believed in the program, everything, and didn't have, and had their egos in check. And I know there's a lot of them like that on the team. And Graham Mertz is the leader of that team. There's no question about it. But when you get money involved in anything, and in this case, the money that's involved is NIL money, and all of a sudden a guy says, I don't like my NIL money. We're seeing this happen all over the country, UNLV being losing 2 guys to UNLV to NIL money because they didn't. One side said that you didn't give us what was promised. The other side said, yeah, we gave you what we promised. You want more now. There's an agent in the middle of it who's not even registered. We recapped that story last week, but when you get money involved, guess what? I'm all bought in on the program. I really want to do everything I can to help the team. Wait a minute. He's getting more than I am. I don't think I'm going to play as hard. I'm not pointing out an individual or anything. I don't know that that's happened with Florida, but it does happen. It happens with everybody, and it's happening all over the country, and even the great cultures, it still happens. It's part of the problem with the NIL. So anyway, we're about to find out. You know, like I said, they haven't played very many good teams, and Colorado's the best team they played by far, and they got hammered at home. So they're 3rd in the nation in rushing, and of course we know KJ Jefferson is 1-0 in the swamp, man. I do not want him to go 2-0. That would be too much. He would be the worst quarterback to ever go 2-0 in the swamp. Now, nothing against KJ Jefferson. He's got talent. He's a really good runner. Not a great passer, though. Throws some picks, and maybe Florida can actually get some interceptions. Wow. What a novel idea. But we'll see what happens there. As I said, this is number 2 on our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5, and that is what UCF is going to bring to the table. As I said, they were 3rd in rushing. They don't play great defense all the time, but their numbers are pretty good because of the schedule they played. I go back to scheduling. Scheduling, I think people, and I include Scott Strickland in this, they got caught up in what was going on in college football. And this is only in some places. In college football, where you needed to fill that stadium to make money. And as a result, they scheduled really tough opponents, big name opponents. Florida scheduled Notre Dame. They scheduled Texas before Texas joined the league. Power 5 everywhere, Miami, obviously. And even the UCF gave them once they agreed to the 2-for-1, they added them. But they didn't do Billy Napier any favors. And I think if they had known that the COVID bump was going to make people go to games, they missed the games so much, you might have had more of those Samford type games in there. But you don't. And it's what you got to play the schedule that's out there. And certainly it gets no easier next year. In fact, in my opinion, it's harder next year because next year you're going to have quarterbacks back in a lot of cases that have gotten some experience, and you're going to play way more games on the road than this year. That was the good thing, right? You play 7 games at home. Well, you got to win those games at home. And so far they're 0-2 against anybody that's any good, right? And if they lose this game and they go 0-3, It's going to get noisy. We know that. I talked about that Monday, but anyway. So we'll see. Like I said, KJ Jefferson, really talented guy. RJ Harvey is their running back, and he's got great numbers too. But there's not a lot of guys behind him with good numbers. So it's possible that if Florida can figure out to take one of those two away on defense, that might be good enough to win the game. And we'll see. Look, I have no idea what's going to happen in this game. I have had no idea what's going to happen in almost every game the Gators have played this year. The only one where I knew what was going to happen, or I know it's going to happen, are coming later in the year. I had no feel for Mississippi State. I had no feel for obviously for Miami. I didn't have any feel for Texas A&M. I thought Florida would win, but I didn't really have a feel for it. I don't have any feel for this game. So I'm not Dr. Feel Good. I'm Dr. Feel Bad. All right, let's get to number 3 on our Gainesville quarterback club. Starting 5, and that is Greg Sankey on a podcast. He's been on this one many times. In fact, we need to get him on again. Remind me of that. I'll make that phone call. We need to get him on again. We haven't had him on in a while. He was on a podcast, and he talked about being the possibility of him becoming the commissioner of college football. And he poo-pooed it. He said, that's not happening. I don't want it to happen. And it would just be dumbing down. Everybody was – and they were talking about this concept of the super conference. And I didn't even know this was going on, but there's some kind of committee. It includes Jimmy Haslam, of course, who owns he basically owns the Tennessee Volunteers is what he does. He owns a lot of things. And Grant Hill is on the committee, which I don't know why basketball's on a football committee, but I guess it's football and basketball. But anyway, those guys, and they came up with this report and they came up with the College Student Football League. Okay. First of all, that's a kind of weird name. And second of all, are they really college students if they're going to be getting paid? Because if they're getting paid, then I don't know. I don't know. That's an answer to anything. And it had 2 leagues. One had 72 teams, one had 64. And the 72 league was the league that would play for championships, and the other one would play for their championship. But the 72 was going to be the big boys. It was like all these different conferences and divisions. Makes a lot of sense. 2014 playoff. Oh, I'm all for that. So when they bring it up, though, and they talk about Sankey being the commissioner, and he's like, I'm not doing that. And I want the SEC to be what it is right now. That's basically what he said. I'm paraphrasing because I know him. I love where we are, and I don't want anything else to get in the way of it. Now, the Big Ten can argue that they're a better conference. We don't agree. How about that? Let's just leave it there. So it's interesting stuff. And again, in this, I'll talk to Tom about this, but in this ever-changing world in which we live in, makes me give in a cry. Say, live and let die. Okay, no more singing. But this world that we live in college football is weird, and it gets weirder every day. And you just kind of want it all to settle down and figure out what makes sense. We all have a plan that works better than what they're doing, right? Here's the way you got to cap the NIL, and you limit transfers to one time without having to sit out. Oh, they're going to sue us? Oh, never mind. We'll let them do it. I don't know where we're going. I really don't. Maybe Tom has some of the answers. All right, let's move on to number 4 on our Gainesville quarterback club starting 5, and that is, of course, Florida State is. It's not been a good year for them. We know that. We've watched the games. 1-4. Now you got to go play Clemson, or you play them at home, but you're playing Clemson without your starting quarterback, DJ Ungalalela, which I'm not sure is not a bad thing. I'm not sure it is a bad thing, because he hasn't been very good. He's already done 6 interceptions in his first 5 games. It just hasn't been good. They haven't been good. I mean, they're 1-4. You can get 1-4 easily, but Brock Glenn will get the start. If you remember him from the Florida game, remember the other guy started, and he's transferred. I can't remember his name. And then he got hurt. And then Glenn came in, and they ended up winning the game. So, hey, good for him. And he's excited, I'm sure, about this opportunity. But the one thing is, when you're looking at FSU's schedule in the preseason, you're probably going, hey, that's not too hard a schedule. That's one reason I think they'll be pretty good, because they've done good in the portal again. Wrong. And the schedule's not too tough. Well, the easy part of the schedule, they lost almost every game, and probably should have lost the other one. Cal should have beaten them. Cal had the ball I think my recollection is inside the 20 with like a minute and a half left in the game, and all they had to do was score a touchdown and win the game. And they took a bunch of sacks, and it was just terrible. That's the only game FSU's won, was a game they probably should have lost. And they're losing recruits. Guys are flipping. They're going other places. And that goes back to what I talked about with Billy Napier. Look, it is harder to recruit when you're losing. People think it's easier to recruit because kids will go, and maybe in the old days you could do this. But you lose a bunch of games and people are booing the coach and everything. And players are like, but yeah, I can play there because I looked at that guy. He's not very good. I can beat him out. And now they don't care about that. It's where are they getting the NIL money? Where are they getting the most success? How do I get to the league? That's all it is. It's not about what colors you like to wear. I do think there are legacy guys, and certainly Florida is piling up on them with, Jackson and Graham and Hanks and all these guys coming in. Alex Brown's kid is playing on the team. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. They obviously, for Florida, it's been a problem. I think they've had a hard time recruiting at a high level, an elite level, because they haven't been able to show the progress on the field. This is what this back half of the season, like we're a quarter of the way through the season, right? No, we're a third of the way through the season. This back eight is going to be really interesting for Florida and Florida State, and it could mean that they both end up with really abysmal records. I could see both of them ending up like 4-8 easily. I mean, Florida's got 2 wins. Where are they going to get the other ones? They better get one this week and maybe find one somewhere down the road. But FSU, same thing. I mean, they still have on their schedule. I mean, obviously Clemson this week, they still have to go to play Miami. Miami's obviously really good. Duke's undefeated. Is it Louisville? There's somebody else that's ranked they got to play. So they got a tough end of their schedule. And we'll see what happens. Again, I am not bothered by FSU's failures. You all know that, All right, let's get to number 5, and that is Mr. Two Bits, which is a tradition here. Of course, we love it. I always wonder who Mr. Two Bits is going to be. And this year, this week, it's kind of a weird one, in that they're bringing in all the Olympians. So I think they had 41 Olympians. I think 30 of them will be there. I don't know if Grant Holloway will be there. And Grant's already done it himself, so he may not feel a need to be there. That's the guy that, I would still have him come back again this year. He won a gold medal. Oh, come on, man. But they're going to have all the Olympians, not all of them, but 30 of them are going to be Mr. Two Bits. It'll be interesting, but it's not going to really fire up the crowd. Now, Grant Holloway's there. He'll fire up the crowd a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know if Caleb Dressel's going to be there. That'll fire up the crowd, especially the women in the crowd. We'll see what happens, though, going forward. Maybe we can go and recruit that young lady, Summer. I can never think of her last name. Her mom's Jill Horsted, and who swam at Florida, and she's won all these gold medals at the Olympics. Summer somebody. Anyway, maybe she'll be there and I can recruit her. I'll go recruit her. How about that? All right, that's going to do it for our Gainesville Quarterback Club starting 5. We appreciate the Gainesville Quarterback Club for being a sponsor and a big part of our show and a big part of my life, to be honest with you. Every Tuesday, man, it's so much fun to go there, have a nice meal, listen to a great speaker, get up there and tell a few jokes. Hey, I did one year. Oh, it was the year that Napier didn't show up on time. He showed up like half hour late. And so I had to stretch. So I started telling Rodney jokes. And I've been told not to do that anymore. They didn't like the Rodney jokes. I love the Rodney jokes, Hey, my mom, she didn't like me. I know she didn't like me. She wouldn't breastfeed me. She said she wanted to like me as a friend. That's good stuff, man. I'm sorry. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Tom Luginbill is going to join us. Can't wait to talk to him. He is the best, and you guys see him on ESPN all the time. We'll talk to him about what is going on in college football, and we'll play yes, no, or maybe with him. We'll get to all of our fun stuff too on the third level. You know that. So a lot of stuff coming up here on another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Titan MRI. North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Always great to bring in our next guest, Tom Luginbill. He is a former quarterback, of course, and now on ESPN does a great job, and love it when he's doing the game. I mean, there's some guys I have to turn the sound down, but you're not one of them, believe me. I love it when you're doing the game.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you watching.
So you were in Dallas for the unmasking of FSU's problems. It gets even worse and worse. But we were just talking off the air, but SMU's pretty good.
They are pretty good. And I'll tell you, they're physical. They can run the football. Quarterback's dynamic. And then defensively, they're really old, meaning that there's a lot of grad transfers, redshirt juniors, redshirt seniors. We don't see as much of that in college football anymore. You know, it's with the transfer portal and 3-and-out guys to the NFL draft. You don't see a lot of people playing with old players, and old teams generally play good. Where SMU, I think, really got ahead of it as they knew they were making this move is they went out in the transfer portal and really upgraded their trenches on both sides of the ball with guys that have played a lot of football, not just guys from bigger schools. And you say, okay, well, this guy can improve us. Guys that have actually played. And so it was a nice evening for them. I was really surprised that Florida State's defense did not travel from the previous week and the performance they had versus Cal, which was remarkable. I mean, I came away from that game. The offensive woes are still troubling, but I came away from that game watching Florida State on defense, and they had energy and there was excitement and they were playing hard. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there's some care here. Maybe these guys are turning the corner. That team never got on the airplane. I mean, it was really strange to me because they had no juice, they had no energy, they got pushed around. And I will say this: SMU's got some skill players. That running back, Rashard Smith, who used to be at Miami, he's a player, man. I mean, he's really good. So it was a combination of a raucous environment, you know, with SMU. You know, it's taken 40, 45 years for them to get back to this point and try to have some relevancy and back in a Power 4 conference. So it was a tough environment, tough atmosphere, but Florida State they can't get out of their own way. And it's not just DJ. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Yeah, he threw a ball to the tight end. He threw a ball to the tight end the other night, wide open, hits him right in the hands. It goes straight up in the air into the hands of an SMU defender. Right, but then he'll go and he'll throw it right to the other team, or they'll get a big play and then it's holding, or they'll get a big play and somebody will do something after the whistle and they'll get a personal foul penalty, and they just can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, I've watched a team like that this year. I'm trying to think of who it is. It's the one right here, right? Couple of miles from my house. Yeah, it's amazing that Florida State and Florida, who both came into this year with high hopes,
Yeah.
Just both of them can't get out of their own way. I mean, Florida obviously looked terrible against Miami, terrible against Texas A&M. Mississippi State's awful team.
Yeah.
They're the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
But they need to win this game against UCF this week, or the noise is going to get ramped back up.
Yeah, and UCF coming off of, a dominant loss to Colorado. I mean, that was a butt kicking. And, you're right. I think sometimes we overcomplicate this game, Pat. Like, we always talk about, making plays here and this guy doing that. You know what it's about? It's about not beating yourself. Like, if talent is somewhat equitable, let's just say an Alabama, Georgia, or an Ohio State, Texas, whatever. You're playing, and the margin of error is so thin. It doesn't become about the plays you make more than the other team. It becomes about the mistakes you avoid. So it's still blocking, tackling. Don't be heavily penalized. Don't turn the ball over. Like, we get into so many different substructures of football sometimes, and we forget that, you know what? If you just play clean, and you do the right things, you're gonna have a chance to win. I mean, I've got Duke, Georgia Tech this week. Duke's 5-0, and do I know if they're any good? I don't know, but I know this. I know this. They don't turn the ball over. They play their best football in the fourth quarter. They're not heavily penalized, and they lead the nation in tackles for loss on defense. So they're always playing ahead of the curve. But do I look at them and say, all right, well, that 5-0 team could go and line up against, Clemson right now, who's kind of hot, or go line up against Texas right now and play toe for toe with them? No, but they're undefeated for a reason. It's because they don't beat themselves.
Yeah, you're right, and that's kind of the MO for Manny. That's the way he likes to coach his teams, and he had trouble with that at Miami. They did beat themselves a lot of times in Miami. He was able to, I think, take a break and be able to figure it out. But it's a weird place right now where we're in right here in Gainesville, because I think it's a divided group right now. Half the people want Napier out. Okay,
of course.
Half the people are saying, hey, if we do that, we're just doing the same thing over and over again. Aren't you saying we don't want Napier to do the same thing over and over again, but we want to do the same thing over and over again? And I think we all know that you're heading into another disaster if you fire the coach. However, if he goes 3-9, what are you going to do?
Right. I know. And, to me, I start asking the question, how much of this is potentially an institutional issue or a fan base issue? Because I guarantee you, Jim McElwain, Will Muschamp, Dan Mullen, and Billy Napier did not start taking stupid pills when they took the Florida job. Okay. But there's some common theme there. Something's not right. And I don't know what it is, but those are all really good football coaches. And I will die on this hill, Pat. I still believe to this day, because they were really good on defense and they could run the football. Had Will Greer not gotten popped for PEDs, Jim McElwain might still be the coach there, because they were on their way to becoming a really good football team. And Kyle Trask hadn't even seen the field yet, And so I thought, I look at the team and I see athletes. Same thing with Florida State. I see blunders, team that struggles when good things don't happen, or when you kind of get that, oh, here we go again mentality. And listen, that's hard to get out of. That is a tough rut to get out of. But it's also, from a fan base standpoint, I know Florida fans are sitting there going, well, why couldn't we have gotten a Kalen DeBoer, right? And so I get that. But let's not forget, when they went after Florida, everybody wanted to hire Billy Napier. Everybody, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that high-profile recruit that goes somewhere and doesn't pan out, and everybody goes, oh, he's a bust. Well, 40 other schools wanted him just as bad. He just went somewhere else, right? So I don't know what to make of it. I feel like with the enhanced facility upgrades, the backing, there is support, although it's awfully negative sometimes. I think that as well as anybody. And I don't think this past offseason helped them any, because it was such a negative cloud,
right,
with the Jaden Rashada scenario and the collective scenario and all of that stuff. And that looms pretty heavy, and it can stick around. It goes away real fast if you're winning, but if you're not, it just lingers.
I tell you, there's also a group of people who are saying, and they've said this to me, and one of them I think is my wife, unfortunately, that Look, maybe Florida's just not supposed to be great. Maybe there's just two geniuses that walked in here, Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer, and found a way to do it, but there's too much else going on, and it's not going to work out for other guys. I don't know. I'm around this thing every day, Tom, and I have no clue why it's gone so bad.
Well, the other thing too, with the two guys you mentioned, particularly Steve Spurrier, they didn't have to deal with all of the auxiliary clutter, the internet, social media, information instantly being provided to the fan base. You could shelter yourself to some degree outside of cameras at practice for the local news affiliate or beat writers, and you didn't have information. You didn't have the opportunity for every slap on the internet to voice their opinion under the veil of anonymity, by the way, and create this snowball of negativity. And I think it's hurt all of those coaches since Urban Meyer left. And but that's the nature of the business now. That's what everybody's dealing with. It's the same for everybody, but there's places where the expectation to perform is much higher. I think Florida should be good. I think they're supposed to be good. I think they've got the resources to be good. Am I going to sit here and say that they've got the right guy? I don't know if I know that yet. I know it hasn't gone well so far for him. I know
that's where I am, same place.
But and we forget when Shoegate happened, right? Florida was the 6th ranked team in the country.
Yeah,
that wasn't 10 years ago.
No,
that was just a handful of years ago, right? So that we forget. So it can be done.
Yeah, that was the first game I got to go to after I retired from the newspaper. I actually got to go and just be a fan,
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to go to any more games after this, but it's really a weird situation down here, and hopefully everything can get worked out. It's weird in college football, and you know that, Luce, as much as anybody. And today I'm reading this story about this think tank that I guess after they got done with Project 2025, they decided to screw up college football. But they came up with this plan for the College Student Football League, where you'd have one 72-team conference and one 64-team conference. You have a 24-team playoff, and I'm like, all right, let me know when it's going to happen. There feels like there's no structure to college football right now.
Everybody's zero.
Rules,
If you ran the NFL the way college football is run right now, it would come crumbling down to the ground in a month, right? And so there's a reason there's collective bargaining. There's a reason there's rules. There are a reason that both parties have to agree. A guy in the NFL who's on a team that finds out week 12 that they're not making the playoffs, that guy doesn't just sit out, right? I mean, you're not allowed to do that. You signed a contract. So I think number one, there's a couple of things that I think are paramount in all of this. Number one, we need to come up with a commissioner of college football and a board of directors or a board of trustees that are made up of coaches, former coaches, guys who have worked in the profession, that understand it inside and out, who know how to identify the problems and have ideas to fix them. Right now, we don't have any semblance of that. All of these decisions and everything that happens in college football, no coaches are involved. How can that be? That's insanity. Yeah. It's insanity. So, that's where I think it begins. I think secondly, and this is a bigger problem than people want to admit that it is, but we've got to do something about tampering. Because before we can attack name, image, and likeness, before we can attack the transfer portal, the tampering that is running rampant across college football right now is brutal. And you're messing with people's rosters, you're messing with kids' heads. Kids make bad decisions, and not everybody's playing with the same deck of cards. So if school A decides, hey, listen, I want that guy on that team, go get him, right? And you have a couple of third-party arms off of the program that go say, hey, this is what we're going to pay you, and they talk that kid into jumping the transfer portal, what's that school going to do? Right? I mean, it's really, really dangerous. And they need to make the deterrent for it so severe that you would never even think to do it. Just like in the NFL. You're going to take away draft choices. There has to be something that is so strong that it would curb it. And then, listen, when name, image, and likeness in the portal are the most transformative legislation in the last 50 years of college athletics. Probably hasn't been anything that's even close. And when you think about that, if you're going to do that, okay, fine, we want to make changes, we want to make shifts. How about we very slowly and we make a cumulative plan that we roll out over the course of time that's been well thought out, that has structure and guidelines and policing and enforcement. But no.
Oh, why would we do that?
No, we're going to take it. We're going to dump it on the laps of every university in America and say, you deal with it. Okay, well, what are the rules? We don't know. Okay, well, if you don't know what the rules are, what can we do? We don't know. And so then the people that were doing this were naive and dumb enough to think that it wasn't going to trickle down into recruiting. Mm-hmm. And now that's really problematic because you're having kids in a position they shouldn't be in at that age, making decisions that they may not be overly educated on, or having counsel that is not have their best interest at heart. And then ultimately, they haven't done anything yet, Pat. Like name, image, and likeness is based off of value.
Right.
How do you generate value? You produce. If you produce, you now have value. Name, image, and likeness takes care of itself. But what's happening now is these kids are all, well, what are you going to pay me? What are you going to pay me? And the answer should be, we're not going to pay you anything outside of your scholarship until you prove your value. But the coaches can't say that because they're not going to be in on the kid. Right? I mean, it's just a wicked, wicked web that has been woven here. And they better come up with some ideas to get it corrected. But I think it starts with having some form of a college football commissioner and committee made up the people who are working in the profession.
Well, I volunteered to be commissioner, but nobody's taken me up on it yet. But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is you got kids who are in high school and they're getting this incredible amount of money.
Oh,
and I mean, gosh, if you give me that kind of money in high school, I'd be dead by now, probably.
Right. We're not educating them on it. We're not. And listen, I don't want to generalize here. I mean, I guarantee you, there's probably some good parental guidance going on with some of these kids. And those parents are saying, whoa, no, we're not going to do that. This is how we need to handle this, so on and so forth, just to provide some structure, just like we would do with our own kids, right. But a lot of these kids aren't getting that. So now you start to get into agent fees and taxes, and you start to get into IRAs, Roth IRAs. How can we protect these kids and protect them from themselves? Like you said, if that happened to you, you'd be a mess, right? Yeah. And so, that part of it is very, very concerning. And plus, we're doing it with kids that have not proved that they're worth a cent yet. They've proved it in high school, but I mean, every recruiting class in America, you're going to hope that you hit on roughly 60% or so. That means you're going to miss. If you had a class of 25, that means you're going to miss on 10 guys in the class. Question is, which 10 are they? Which 10 are there? And just like Nick Saban said on game day, he goes, you can pay all the players you want, but if you pay the wrong ones, you're SOL. And he's dead on correct.
That is exactly right. Yeah.
And especially in high school at the quarterback position, it's such a crapshoot. You got to have money to burn to be willing to pay a high school quarterback. I mean, you really do. And I mean, look at it from a college perspective. Who do you think was more upset with DJ Uiagalelei, Dabo Swinney or Dr. Pepper?
Yeah.
And by the way, Dabo went 11-2 with DJ. That's the coaching job of the century.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was with somebody that was already at the college level, had generated a little value. Only was off of just 2 games, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But same thing happened with Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. Doesn't work out. Made a bunch of money and didn't pan out. And the problem is they're not employees and you don't have them under contract, so you can't take the money back. Yeah. Because you can't put stipulations, you can't put performance standards, you can't put immorality clauses unless they're under contract, and they're not.
I know you've done nothing to make me more encouraged about college.
I know. And listen, man, I'm living it. I'm living it every day, not just in college, but the whole recruiting thing and with parents and kids. And you want these kids to make long-term decisions. Everything is so narrowly focused right now on dollar signs and branding and me, I. Mm-hmm. And nobody's painting the long-term picture with the mentality of educating yourself on the schools you like. Why not? Pros versus cons. Yes, education should be a part of it because 0.4% of anybody that plays college football will actually play in the NFL. They all think they're going to play in the NFL. The reality is none of them are going to play in the NFL. So why not have a structure in place if you're a high school recruit or a college player where you set yourself up? Because here are the horror stories we're going to hear over the next couple of years, Pat. We're going to have the guy gets paid coming out of high school. He has a pretty good career in college, so he gets paid in college. He gets bad advice, and he enters the NFL draft when the NFL told him to go back to school. He's blown all his money. He doesn't have a degree, and now he doesn't make an NFL roster. And you're telling that young person who is making way more money than they should have to now have to go find a job making $35,000 a year.
Right.
That's not what anybody wanted in all of this, ever.
No. It's a shame.
You know?
All right. Tom Luginbill is coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. We're going to play our game with him. Yes, no way, or maybe, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. Street dining done the right way. Go in there and say you listen to this podcast, and you will get free fries with your order. And I know people who have done that, including our producer. All right. Yes, no way, or maybe, Tom. Florida and Florida State are both left out of the bowl picture.
Yes.
I would agree with you. Because
Yeah.
I tell you what, I talked about this a little bit earlier. They're 1-4 FSU is. The schedule's is getting harder. These are the games they're supposed to roll through, you know.
I know. Yeah. So I'd say no. I'd say yes, they're out.
Yeah. All right. Number 2, the worst part of your job is how many games you have to miss. Seeing.
In person?
Yeah, no, just seeing on TV.
Well, I would say no, because fortunately now with the ACC primetime package, I'm night at all times, and then I've got a Sirius XM show at 9 p.m. Eastern time on 84 every Sunday with Barrett Solis. So what I end up doing is I see all the games during the day. I broadcast my game, keep an eye on what's going on with the other games, and then when I get back to the hotel, I go back and I watch the other night games. And then I'm ready to go for the next day. So that now, if you would have asked me that question on my ABC crew for the last 10 years, I would have said absolutely that's the question, because I was either on noon or 3:30, ABC or ESPN every single week. So I get to see the night game. I didn't get to see anything during the day. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and again, that was my problem when I was covering the Gators all the time. Now I can sit home. I got 3 TVs set up.
There you go.
I'm set to go. All right, finally on Yes, No Way, or Maybe with Tom Luginbill, Sam Pittman will be Arkansas's coach at the end of the year.
Maybe. And I say that because I think they've got a quarterback and they look vastly improved. Like you watch them, like I had them last year, and they were so ravaged with injuries. They had no semblance of order on offense, and they were a bad football team. And they don't look like a bad football team to me anymore. I think that quarterback's really good. So I'm going to say maybe. Obviously, the schedule is daunting, but if you're looking at it administratively, you've seen that they made progress and that the coach has made necessary changes that have improved the team. So I think administratively that helps him.
Tom, it's always a pleasure. I feel smarter after talking to you always, and it's great.
Tell my wife that.
Yeah. Well, you tell my wife that. But it's a real pleasure, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios right after this break.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, 2 things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great. Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast,
any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Appreciate everybody for listening or calling or being around it. Our podcast, we're doing good, and we're doing great this football season, and had so many people come aboard, and that's so cool to have so many people want to get involved in it. And we've had some other inquiries, and we're probably going to take advantage of them. Let us get to our Hesser and Kipkes 3 things. And of course, Hesser and Kipkes, a Gainesville firm here for your needs in family law or workers' compensation. Call or text Ken and Jennifer 24/7 at 352-339-9920. Hesser and Kipkes, nearly 50 years of combined legal experience and about to celebrate their 5th anniversary in January. We appreciate our friends at Hesser and Kipkes. Let's get to number 1, which would be this. The Braves are done. Their season is over. I got no more games to sweat out. Look like a bunch of tired bats. Again, I just wanted them to get in and make the playoffs. I was hoping for something better than this, but Padres are better than the Braves. I mean, that's not much question about that. But with all the injuries they've had, and everything, I'm not upset about it because that they got in was enough. That's all I wanted. They weren't going to win it this year. You never know because baseball is a weird sport. So the Braves are gone, and so are the Astros, which is consolation. I will say that. The Mets are still playing. They're playing tonight against the Brewskis. So you got that going on. I think it's tomorrow night, actually. And then the other series is over too. So it was kind of I still am not a fan of the wild card having 3. Remember when it was 1? That was ridiculous. Best of 3, okay, you got a chance. But if you never get to go home, that to me doesn't mean you have a chance. Look, you get the advantage, the home field advantage. That's why I think it should be 5. You get the home field advantage, but at least they get to play 1 game on their home. And that to me is the only way to make it right. But again, don't get me started on baseball. Baseball doesn't understand what I want, and they should understand what I want. I want more games. I want more games that matter, not the games in the middle of July. Those games aren't doing it for me. But hey, they got their own problems. I'm not going to worry about them. I did want to mention it, though, because I know Ken Hesser's very happy. He's sitting back there with a cigar waiting to see, who are we going to play? Yeah. I want to see who we're going to play. He doesn't talk like that. He doesn't talk like Edward G. Robinson or the Penguin. But anyway, I'm sure he's happy about it, and we'll see what happens. All right, let's get to number 2 on our Hesser and Kipkes 3 things. And I wanted to mention this because they didn't have room down here to get it among the swamp games of the weekend. But one of the big games this weekend is, of course, Florida facing Texas in volleyball Sunday at 1:00. And that is here, of course, in the O-Dome. And that game is on ESPN. So that's kind of exciting to see that. And then Texas is also coming here Friday. Now, you would think they would organize this a little better to have Texas. They could all fly together and they could all get there, and play the same day and then all fly home. But no, they're playing Friday against Florida in soccer, and they're ranked 22nd. Now, the Texas volleyball team is 2-time defending national champ, and they're ranked number 7. Florida's struggling in volleyball because of the Alexis Stuckey injury from last year. She's not all the way back. She hasn't had enough practices, but I'm hoping with the open week, she's able to get back into volleyball shape and be ready to go because they're a really good team with her, but they just can't. It's like they're missing a link, like a link in the chain, to be honest with you. And I know other young ladies have filled in admirably, but she's a special player. So hopefully she'll be able to go. Like last week, I watched that match. She started, but then she came in a little bit in the last set. They lost that one to Kentucky, and it was very competitive. It came down to the last set. I think went well. I guess it went. Do they call it overtime if you win 30-28 in volleyball? Anyway, so the Longhorns are invading this weekend. I think this is our first time, isn't it? With all these Texas people coming in, so they're coming in for volleyball and for soccer, and we'll see if there are any incidents. Oh, the soccer, by the way, is Friday at 7, and it's only on the Plus. So you need to get out there to the stadium and watch the Florida soccer team. Let's move along to number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, and that is good news for those of you who like to watch women's sports and like to be involved in it. Both the women's golf and the women's gymnastic regionals will be in Gainesville in 2028. Now, it feels like a million years away. I hope I'm around for it 4 years from now, but that's good news, though. You want the bidding process. I mean, there is a bidding process that goes with these, and it's good to see that Florida's still putting money in with those kind of things. But so 2028 will be an exciting time around the campus for both of those sports, especially women's golf, and gymnastics. Gymnastics will be sold out probably. Women's golf, people love going out there and just walking because you get a good walk in and you get to watch really good golf. So anyway, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. We appreciate Hesser and Kipke. Let's move along to our Gator of the Weekend, brought to you by Gator of the Week, brought to you by Adams Ribco. Adams Ribco, Adams Ribco, man, the best ribs in the world. And I'm sure a lot of you are stacking up for the weekend. I was thinking about I think I might do that. I can slip in there and maybe order some ribs. Mainly because I'm trying to figure out what to do this. I want to go to the game. I really do want to go to the game. But there's also a part of me that's like, yeah, but I kind of enjoyed staying home and watching these other games. I will say it's not a great schedule this weekend. It may be good enough. Next weekend's going to be better. The following weekend is going to be ridiculous. So I don't know. I'll make up my mind eventually. I promise you. But anyway, our Gator of the Week brought to you by Adams Ribco. I almost said to go. To go is not around anymore. But Adams Rib Company is Reagan Gilmore. Reagan Gilmore is a cross-country runner for Florida's women's team. And, of course, Reagan is a freshman. And now, I ain't saying she's Parker Vileby, but all of a sudden – I'm paying attention to cross country because all of a sudden Florida was so good last year. And of course, Parker Vilby's gone, but she did really well. She was named the SEC Freshman of the Week for her finish in some meet. I don't even know where it was, but she did really well. It's the first time they've had the Freshman of the Week, or Florida has, since 2020. So that's pretty impressive. Good for her, and fight on. Let's keep it going. And you'll win another. I would love to give you multiple Adams Ribco Gators of the Week, man. It would be great. So we'll try to get those to you. Although I think you're too. I saw the pictures of you running, and you may be too skinny to eat those ribs. I don't know. They would stick to your ribs. But no, she's a very lovely young girl, and hopefully she does well. I've never met her, but Reagan Gilmore is our Adams Rib Company Gator of the Week. I was just thinking Gilmore girl. She's a Gilmore girl. That's what I was thinking. All right, let's move on to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. And our winner last week was it Andrew Berg? I almost said Andrew. Who was Andrew? Andrew Berg. I sent his package yesterday. He should be getting it soon. $25 at Leonardo's, $25 at Nopal. Again, we're trying to help our friends at Nopal. If you get a chance to go by there. Jesus has gone through some rough times health-wise and everything. Go by and give him a break. But also, I mean, we're certainly not discouraging people to go to Leonardo's because they're our sponsor. We're just trying to help out this guy, and I know that Kyle would feel the same way because he's that kind of guy. He likes to help people out. Anyway, and Bob Dooley invitational hat I stuck in there as well. So Andrew, you should be getting that pretty soon. So let's start a new one. And we always love these pick contests, and you guys have been there's like a group of about 40 or 50 guys, and there's a couple of women in there too, who bombard me with picks. I'd like to get some other people involved. Not that I don't want them to win, but and they're making the effort, but we need to get more people involved because it's an opportunity to win gift certificates and merchandise and stuff like that. We'll start out. This is our first one. Here's what my spread is going to be for Florida UCF. No spread at all. It's going to be pick 'em game. It's either way, and either way it's close. I'm not going to mess with these different lines from different people. So you pick Florida or you pick UCF. You just pick one of them. That's all you have to do. However, we do have a game where you are going to have to use a spread, and that is Missouri at Texas A&M, which is a really good game. I'm looking forward to that one. And the spread there is 2.5. A&M favored at home over unbeaten Missouri. I lean towards A&M. Missouri hasn't played anybody. Really? Have they? Who they beaten? Nobody. I didn't think so. No. All right. So those are your two games. Florida UCF, no spread, and Missouri getting 2.5 at Florida or Texas A&M. If they're at Florida A&M, you'd pick Missouri, but you need to know that it's not them. Okay. All right. Let's move along. It is time, as we do every show, for our Hugh, Cain, Allstate Mayhem moment.
The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today.
Astros, Royals, we're all tied at 1. We go back to Houston. Who's got the edge, Raul?
I'm sorry.
Looked like you saw a ghost, bro.
What were you doing? What were you?
He's crying here.
I'm so sorry I did that. Oh, laugh this hard. Are we on TV?
Hey, look at you, Pete.
Okay.
You're a mess.
Right. You okay?
You got it.
All right.
You got it.
Ready? You ready? Hey, can we start? Can we start the engines?
Yeah, we wanted to play that because back in when Pete Rose was on with the baseball guys doing the postseason, it was like when Barkley is on. He was really hilarious, and I felt bad. I mean, Pete Rose passing away, obviously Monday night, I believe it was. It was my first interview, big interview. I mean, I'd interviewed high school kids and stuff, but they sent me up there because they didn't want to send anybody else up there. He was giving a speech to a group. He was getting paid for it, and I was intimidated. I sat down. He was unbelievably nice. So we want to make sure. Look, I believe they should put him in the Hall of Fame. I've kind of said no for a long time because he bet on baseball. Now I'm kind of like, hey, at least let his family enjoy it, and put an asterisk at the bottom and say he was banned for baseball for betting on games. Yeah, you should do that. That's part of his life. It's like I always love those. That's not what defines me. Yeah, no, it's part of your definition. That's part of his definition. But for them not to have, like, the argument's always been, how can you have the all-time hits leader not in your Hall of Fame? And I now agree with that. I feel bad that I'm sure I'm the guy who kept him out of the Hall of Fame, but I feel bad that my answer was always no, he shouldn't be in. I do. I really do. Anyway, that's enough of that. All right, let's move along to our This, That, and the Other. This, That, and the Other, which is brought to you by Ironwood Golf Course. It is brought to you by Dar Shakow Insurance. Like I said, I just saw Johnny at the golf tournament the other day, John Jr. And of course by Ballyhoo Grill. We were there last week. We had a good time. That's what always happens. I don't know what it is. Wherever I go there, I have a good time. And I'll probably be there this weekend. Anyway, let's get to This, That, and the Other. And this is, you guys all remember when the Masters was taking so much heat, right? And rightfully so. Wouldn't let women in, wouldn't let black people in. They had like their token black. They wouldn't let women play. I remember the big protest that they staged. Oh, gosh, what was the lady's name? Martha. So anyway, I can't think of her name, but they staged this protest, and the only place they could stage it was this field, like way away from the Masters. And but the reporters followed him over there and interviewed him. And there's a great story about that. I'll tell you off the air sometime. Anyway, I was covering it for 9 years, and I was like, it was always kind of a weird thing, because I certainly believe in women's rights, and I believe that women should be playing there. And I felt like it was like taking a masterpiece and, spray paint on it. And so, but I still loved it, and I still loved covering it, and I got to play it in '96. And I kind of, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of just put that aside, but I got to live with it. I didn't like it. I don't think they cared whether I liked it or not. But anyway, that's what the Masters was. And there was a lot of racism up there. We know that. That is that they named as their chairman. I can't remember what year it was, but it was still while I was still covering it. Fred Ridley, former Gator and U.S. Open or U.S. Amateur champion, former Gator and really rich guy. But he is a man of conviction, and he is a man of principle. And so things changed. And guess what we have now? A women's event being played at Augusta. Can you think about that? You couldn't even play the course if you were a woman, and now they have an event for it. Fred Ridley behind all this stuff. He has done an amazing job. And then the other is the Fred Ridley and the Masters came out today, and they are putting all their efforts, all their money, all their things, well, not all their money, but a lot of their money. They're trying to help the people of Augusta. Augusta got hit Augusta, Asheville obviously was we didn't expect that to happen. Other places up in that area, but Augusta got hit, from what I was told. I haven't seen a lot of video, but it got hit really hard, and by Helene. But anyway, it's really cool to see the Masters doing stuff like that and trying to help people out. And doing, they did charity work before, but it's different now, and it's because of Fred Ridley. And I'm proud to know him, and also proud that he's a Gator. All right, that is this, that, and the other. Brought to you by Ballyhoo, by Ironwood, and by Darshako Insurance. Let us move next and wrap up things for today's show with our Swamp Games of the weekend. And of course, I can't give you every game because there's too many, right? I already told you about the volleyball. All right, here's we have games Friday night. There's games tonight. They're terrible. Don't watch them. Friday night, Houston at TCU, 7:30 ESPN. Yeah, it's watchable. Syracuse at UNLV is a sleepy, good game if you can stay up for it. It's 9 o'clock on FS1. I like that game, and that's a game I'll probably watch a lot of it. I'm hoping. Our SEC game of the week, other than the Florida game, of course, it's not a state game either, so we don't talk about it during this segment. But the SEC game is obviously Missouri at Texas A&M. That is, we talked about it earlier, close spread. It's a noon game on ABC. Get fired up. Our national game, I think this is a really interesting game. Iowa and its defense against Ohio State at Ohio State. It's on CBS at 3:30. That's worth watching. Worth keeping an eye on. Let's put it that way. The state game would be and if you can, nobody's staying up for this. Miami at Cal. Miami fans aren't staying up for this. I keep going back to the fact that Cal almost beat FSU, but man, I just don't think they have the players to stay with Miami. It's a 10:30 start on ESPN. My gut is I'm going to watch it until they get a 2-touchdown lead. And I think it'll be pretty quick, but I'll watch it for a while. And let me tell you what, if Cal stays with them the whole way, I'll be up till 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh man, what if they go to triple overtime? Okay, let's move along to our baseball. Saturday, Detroit is at Cleveland. Saturday also, the Mets or the Brewers will be at Philadelphia. Now the Detroit at Cleveland game is at 1:08 on Saturday, TBS. The Mets Brewers the winner of the Mets Brewers against Philadelphia is at 4:08 on Fox. Kansas City at the New York Yankees, 6:38 on TBS, and San Diego at the Dodgers, 8:38 on FS1. And then Sunday, I think there will be only 2 games. I think the Phillies would play and the Dodgers would play, I think. Sometimes it's hard to understand when you're looking through these things. And of course, we got a lot of NFL games going on this weekend too. There's just no room on my pad for writing everything down. It's going to be a fun weekend. Enjoy it. Hopefully the Gators get a win and everybody can be happy and not the noise in the system won't be too loud. But let me tell you, let me just say this. Hopefully the Gators win and everybody stays quiet. That's what I'm hoping for. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't know anything. Here's what I do know. The show is over, and we will be back with another one on Monday with Coach Spurrier. We look forward to that, and we'll be talking about Florida, UCF, and all the other games that went on this weekend and some of the baseball stuff, too. We'll be back with more then. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep. I am way back, and I am out of here.